He's in his sleeping pod. It's a good use of reusing material. Yeah, no worries. I know he was gone last week. He was around, but he's go big or go home. The definition of it: head smash, recoil damage. Rampardos will be okay. He'll be back better than ever. AKA same old Rampardos. So one thing I find more and more interesting is over the years, when it comes to philosophy, I got into that pretty young age, right? I think throughout life, philosophy is, it's taught in grade school, especially, I remember 7th grade middle school with history class, they talked about, ancient Greek, some Roman history, and obviously that is going to have a big alignment with, especially the philosophers of Athens. And so even at a young age, you're kind of introduced to philosophical concepts. I talk about how in video games, there's a lot of great philosophy in movies, shows. We're talking from Paarthurnax in the Elder Scrolls to Itachi Uchiha in Naruto. And these characters bring in different philosophical meanings of what is good, what is bad, what is a true character. Are you able to redeem yourself in the path of life? At the moments of your death, you find out who you truly are. And I think there's a lot of things you can add and elaborate around that. All that being said, all those wonderful quotes from those wonderful characters, and I sit there and I was like, sometimes it's the most simple statements that have the biggest impact in terms of not just thinking about it, but in terms of like life relevance at the time, right? Not that big philosophical quotes aren't relevant, but in terms of persistence and in terms of like an ironic form of showing that, sometimes the most simple statements have the strongest impact, right? And so in this case, it's been such a big meme, and I loved how only just a few years ago, because of games like Fortnite, which I've never played Fortnite, but I've always respected how the designers are against deforestation, and it's really just people having a fun time with that game in general, right? So when I hear about people getting angry at kids having joy from Fortnite, that really is like the whole, where's your joy and whimsy? You're really looking at people getting angry at joy and whimsy. And when I learned a few years ago that the line skill issue was taking off, not just in memes, but, like Gen Z, they were definitely pushing that line against others. I loved it. I loved that blunt statement because, we could talk, easily for hours, just today about how the term skill issue can be so broad and covering so many things: sports, video games, life itself, right? I failed my history exam. Skill issue, right? And then obviously we can start talking about how that term can go into what is polite in a conversation, what is therapeutic in a conversation, to be professionals. I don't know how often your therapist is going to go, conclusion, skill issue, right? But that type of bluntness with 2 words is something that, I've been thinking about, especially with, they've done that. There's one lately about touch grass, quite a few years ago. And again, on the surface, it's like, funny meme statement. But unironically, I've met quite a few people that they've become so enveloped in their echo chamber of toxicity that going outside to touch some grass, go on a walk, even fake turf like tennis or football, throw the ball around, play some soccer, play some baseball. I think that could go a long way. In fact, full circle, fighting games, PvP, especially a super toxic scene lately like Super Smash Bros. Melee, a lot of them could really learn genuine sportsmanship skills. I've seen more and more people get into a game like Melee, and they're not bringing any values they got from sportsmanship, if they did at all, right? I think there is a value to teaching kids sports at a young age. Even if you're not into soccer or football, baseball, golf, tennis later, I think by just having your kid try out a little bit in sports goes a long way, because consistently all those sports, they push for sportsmanship. You watch NFL, you watch MLB, you watch Tiger Woods with a fierce competitor, and they go for handshakes. Good game. Now, golf obviously is more isolated, but even then, yeah, like I said, Tiger Woods and other professionals, when they come across rivals, it's important to have good sportsmanship. It's important to be a class act. And so, that whole touch grass statement, I think there is, ironically, it goes pretty deep. It starts to go into that reflective property of, what am I doing with myself if I'm constantly miserable with the things that I play? Being able to go cross that comfort zone and go into venture into other things and learning about, oh, there's more to life than me taking myself too seriously. And it's like, oh, nature is delicate. And human beings, it's important to show that there can be care put into the world. And that care can be just a simple GG when you're done with the game. So one of my favorites is just again, it aligns with those two, but another one I loved seeing in the past few years is drink water. And I remember that, that form of advice, like that was being pushed to me since high school, right? Obviously, because I was born in 1995, and in that mid-late 90s, early 2000s, there definitely were health pushes. But definitely in the mid-late 2000s on, when people were online more, there was more information shared. And you can actually see the statistics of when more and more people became more health conscious and they were making more healthy decisions. And then the stock and prices of big companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi were dropping. And, I will salute Coke and Pepsi. You know what they did? They did find ways to adapt in different ways. They were pushing for sparkling water, Gatorade and Gatorade and Powerade. Gatorade being owned by Pepsi, Powerade by Coca-Cola. They were pushing kind of less sugar-oriented versions of those drinks. So definitely there were some people up at the higher up business meetings that understood it's not just a trend. It's more information coming out that, listen, I love a Coke myself. I haven't had one since high school, but it's important that at these meetings that they were talking about, okay, more people are actually drinking water more, and that stuff's basically free. If it's not free at a restaurant, that's already a red flag. What can we do to compete with water, right? And so that kind of blunt advice of drink water, something that, I just love saying in general, like other people do, just for the meme power itself. Drink water, touch grass. It's like, oh my gosh, those are actually just great words of advice. Go outside a bit, drink water. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't do this right now. With the backwards handle. And whether it's messy like that or you got your pinky out, you gotta have the yin and yang here. I think drinking water goes a long way. I mean, again, you can get a doctor on board telling you about all these amazing health benefits of drink quite a bit of water each day. But honestly, it's also because, I mentioned earlier, many weeks ago that, I stopped drinking soda in early 2012, and this full circles back to in high school. I'll never forget Angela in sophomore year band camp. I always love that when you do school activities in the summer, it's considered the next year. But yes, this was 2010, summer 2010 band camp going into my sophomore year. And I remember Angela was advising about how, soda, there's definitely a lot of health risks if you drink too much soda. And I can tell you my biggest jump to not drink it as much was, she talked about kidney stones, and to, a high school me, I was like, whoa, I don't want that. And she's like, yeah, drink more water. And from then on, I was like, okay. And at first I was still drinking soda every now and then, but then by the time of my junior year of high school, I just said no. And so early 2012, I stopped drinking soda. And one of the big things that got me to do all of that was when I would be on the computer, whatever drink was on my desk, I would drink a lot of. And I noticed that at first it was Fantas and soda, just in general, right? That my parents would get from the grocery store. And so I kind of did a self-experiment, And this is where the broadness of drink water really comes down to, how does that work? How does what are my habits of drinking water, right? Because at first, back then, it's like, oh, I need to drink water more. Okay. And it's like, to me, that's for high school me, at first, it was like, oh, go out of your way to drink water. And I'm like, no, hold on. I'm drinking whatever's in front of me while I'm on the computer, and pretty fast. What if I swap this with a glass of water? Lo and behold, the water goes by fast too. So by habit, I'm just kind of drinking whatever drink I have, in front of me. And so now I don't know if we're going to go to apple cider vinegar next year. I should start drinking a little bit of that each day. Shoutouts to my mom and Cool Dude and my stepmom. I'll talk about the health benefits of that. Definitely something I'm looking into. That's probably the next step. There you go. It doesn't have to be a New Year's resolution. So later this year, because let's get the jump start there. But yeah, drinking water, it's fascinating how that simple statement not only helps people in terms of their health, but it gets big soda companies to budge. It gets them to go, oh my gosh, they're drinking water. And so now you're seeing, a bunch of different brands of sparkling water, a lot of different less sugar or no sugar varieties. And I love sparkling water, so it's definitely a win-win situation for me. And so again, the whole philosophical side of drink water, touch grass, skill issue is so fascinating because it's simple. It's a simple statement. And yet here we are looking at the depths of, human interaction, the depths of history, and how one statement of 2 words can go so far back and so far ahead for one person's health and for the health of many others. Definitely do yourself a favor and take a drink of water today, tomorrow, the next day. But if you want, a nice sugary drink every now and then, moderation is a-okay. Educate yourself, understand what you're drinking, but, obviously don't feel awful if you put a bunch of sugar in your coffee one day and you want some dessert. There you go for it. Or mocha frappa, what's it, as my college professor, Mr. Murphy, would say. I definitely think, moderation, as people say, is pretty important. And so, I have friends that still drink soda every now and then, and I'm not going to be that guy to be like, oh, you know what you're drinking right now? Again, we live in an abundant information society to the point that I think most people are pretty educated. And again, moderation's okay. And all that being said, drink water is still going to be there as a big overarching statement that not even I have to say to remind most people. It is fascinating how much that can be spread around. And it's cool. It's one of those things where in life there can be so many negative things, so much negativity can be spread and trying to drag people under. But in this world where I see touch grass, drink water, and skill issue also being pushed, where skill issue actually can get people to start reflecting on bettering, self-improvement, making a better self for their performance, not just in life, but in the games they play, in their studies. I think that can go a long way. Obviously, there's an outlet to be polite there, but that's one of those hopeful things I see. One of those things I hope continues in momentum as we continue to hydrate, exercise, and improve upon ourselves each day. I love Mondays.